A body lies in an isolated stretch of woodland, hidden far from any road. In the first few days after death, medical examiners rely on bodily markers like temperature, stiffening, and lividity to establish a timeline. But as days turn into weeks, those physical signs fade away completely. The body stops telling its story in the usual way. Without a timeline, an investigation hits a wall. Detectives have no time frame to check against a suspect's alibi. They do not know if they are investigating an event that happened last Tuesday or an entire month ago. But the scene is not completely silent. From the moment a life ends, the body hosts a thriving, highly structured ecosystem. An entire community of insects arrives and continuously works, grows, and keeps time. To a passing observer, a swarming mass of insects is a gruesome sight. To a trained forensic entomologist, it is a biological stopwatch. If you know how to read the life cycles of the creatures at the scene, you can wind that stopwatch backward. To see how this backward clock works, we start at the far end of the timeline. Imagine a victim discovered many months or even years after death. By this point, the soft tissue is entirely gone, and the early swarms of flies have finished their work and departed. This initiates a process called incept succession. As a body decays, it attracts a highly reliable sequence of different visitors. Once the environment dries out, creatures that specialize in consuming dry remnants, like skin, tendons, and hair, move in to claim what is left. Identifying these dry tissue specialists, like carpet beetles or hide beetles, gives an investigator a rough calendar. The presence of this specific community of insects proves the scene has existed for many months, stretching the timeline across entire seasons. While these late arrivals establish a broad window of time, they lack minute-by-minute precision. Finding the exact day the victim died requires digging into the evidence left behind by the earliest visitors to the scene. If we wind the clock back to the weeks immediately following death, the insects offer a different kind of evidence. They act as geographical witnesses, quietly recording exactly where a body has been. Different blowfly species thrive in very specific environments. Some require open, sunlit fields, while others only breed in deep shade or specific elevations. If detectives find a body in a cool, dark basement, but it is covered in a species that only lives in sunny, open spaces, the ecosystem is telling a clear story. The body was moved after the initial colonization. These swarms also map the violence on the body itself. Insects naturally seek out moist, sheltered openings to lay their eggs. However, a stab wound or a gunshot creates a new artificial entry point. Finding an unusually dense cluster of larvae far away from natural orifices points a medical examiner directly toward trauma that decomposition might otherwise hide. A killer might try to relocate a victim or conceal the cause of death, but the wrong species in the wrong location, or a heavy concentration of larvae over a hidden wound, unravels those lies. The bugs document the true crime scene. Winding the timeline all the way back to the first few days. When a blowfly lands on fresh remains, it lays eggs that hatch into larvae, or maggots. These larvae progress through a series of growth stages, feeding, shedding their skins, and increasing in size. This growth happens on a rigid, predictable schedule. This chart shows the core mechanism of that schedule, a metric called accumulated degree hours. An insect requires a specific total amount of warmth over time to reach a given stage of development. Think of it as a budget of heat a larva spends to grow. To calculate it, an entomologist cross-references the oldest maggot size with local temperature records. They subtract the accumulated warmth 1 hour at a time, calculating backward until the development curve hits 0. That point of 0 represents the exact moment the very first eggs were laid. Through this thermal math, investigators pinpoint a time of death to within a few hours, even weeks after the victim took their last breath. That timeline starts at minute 0. Deep within the tissues, decomposition immediately releases a faint signature of volatile gases. A blowfly possesses a sense of smell so keen it detects this chemical beacon and lands on a body in as little as 10 minutes. Relying on these rapid arrivals to investigate a death might sound like a modern forensic technique born in a digital lab, but investigators have utilized this method for hundreds of years. In the year 1235, a Chinese investigator named Sun Tzu was trying to solve a fatal stabbing in a village. He ordered local laborers to lay their sickles down in the open. To the human eye, the blades were completely clean, but blowflies began to gather on one specific sickle, drawn to microscopic traces of blood that washing had failed to remove. Faced with the swarm, the owner confessed. Across 8 centuries, the instincts of these insects have served as unbribable testament against human deception. The flies have no motive and no story to protect. They just follow the chemistry. Yet, out in the real world, biology resists perfectly clean mathematics. A crime scene is exposed to sudden temperature swings, unpredictable weather, and shifting sunlight, all of which directly threaten the accuracy of the timeline. The greatest complication occurs during a specific biological transition. Before turning into adult flies, larvae stop feeding and crawl away to harden into shell-like casings called pupae. In a controlled laboratory, this crawling away phase is brief, but out in the wild soil and leaf litter, a larva might wander for days searching for the right spot to transform. That extended search acts as a hidden multiplier, severely skewing the thermal math if an investigator fails to account for it. Missing that wandering phase can throw off the estimated time of death by up to 48 hours. In a murder investigation, a 2-day error is the exact margin between clearing a solid alibi and sending an innocent person to prison. This discipline requires absolute humility in the face of nature. Death rarely leaves behind complete silence. Instead, it immediately triggers an ongoing microscopic record of the event. The evidence is always there, keeping careful time, waiting for someone skilled enough to read it.